You fell asleep last night and went somewhere else entirely. Maybe you were running from something. Maybe you were flying. Maybe someone you haven't thought about in years showed up in your kitchen, acting like it was completely normal. You woke up and it faded. You called it a dream. You moved on with your day. But here's what nobody told you. What happened inside your head last night is far older than language, far older than civilization, far older than the species that built it. And the real answer to what ancient humans actually dreamed about will change the way you think about every night of sleep you have left. Let's start with what you probably assume. You might imagine that prehistoric people, sleeping in caves, huddled by fires, dreamed of simple things. Food, animals, survival, basic, primal, almost animal-like in their simplicity. That assumption is wrong. Anthropologist Kelly Bulkley has spent decades analyzing dream content across cultures and across time. His research, published in the journal Dreaming, found that the core emotional and narrative architecture of human dreams is essentially universal. The same themes appear across every culture on Earth, and almost certainly appeared in the minds of humans 100,000 years ago. What themes? Fear, social belonging, love and loss, the dead who refuse to stay dead, being chased, falling, flying, being unprepared, being seen, or terrifyingly unseen. Your ancestors dreamed the same things you do, but the way they understood those dreams was radically different, and that difference tells you something profound about the human mind. Here is what you need to understand. For the vast majority of human existence, there was no clear line between dreaming and waking reality. That boundary you take for granted, the quiet certainty that a dream is just a dream, did not always exist. It was built. It was cultural. It was learned. Anthropologist Barbara Tedlock, who spent years embedded with the Quiché Mayan people, documented this in detail. In many traditional societies, dreams are not the brain idling in the dark. They are a second form of perception, a different channel of information about the world. When a shaman or elder woke from sleep, the question was not whether the dream was real. The question was what it was telling you. Your ancestors did not dismiss the dead who showed up in their sleep. They listened to them. They asked them questions. They carried those conversations into the decisions of the day. Think about what that means for a moment. For nearly all of human history, the people you lost did not disappear when they died. They kept showing up. And every culture, on every continent, developed its own system for interpreting what they were saying. Now here is where the science gets genuinely strange. Researchers at Harvard, including Deirdre Barrett, have studied what the content of dreams actually does for the waking brain. Her work suggests that dreaming is not random noise. It is the mind actively simulating problems, testing scenarios, running emotional rehearsals for situations that haven't happened yet. Barrett calls this the committee of sleep. Your sleeping brain, liberated from the constraints of logic and consequence, is free to recombine information in ways your waking mind would edit out too quickly. It makes connections that shouldn't exist. It tells stories that violate physics but obey emotion perfectly. Ancient humans lived in a world of genuine, constant threat. Predators were real. Drought was real. The stranger from the next valley was real. A mind that could rehearse those threats in sleep, running through outcomes, testing fear responses, building emotional maps of the unknown, was a mind that survived. Your nightmares are not a malfunction. They are an inheritance. And they may have been one of the most important technologies our ancestors possessed. But there is something else. Something that gets closer to the actual experience of sleeping in the Paleolithic world. Something modern people rarely consider. You sleep in the dark. You have always slept in the dark. But your darkness is different. Neuroscientist Jerome Siegel, whose research compared the sleep patterns of hunter-gatherer societies in Tanzania, Namibia, and Bolivia, found something that should have made global headlines. Traditional hunter-gatherers, sleeping without electricity, without screens, without alarm clocks, did not sleep longer than modern people. But they slept differently. They went to sleep after midnight, when the temperature began to drop. They woke naturally with rising warmth in the early morning. And in between, they moved through sleep cycles that modern humans almost never complete, which means ancient humans were spending more time in the deep dream stages, more time in the slow-wave sleep that consolidates memory, more time in the REM phases where the emotional brain runs its simulations. They were dreaming more thoroughly than you are, and they were waking into a world that took those dreams seriously. Consider what that felt like. You close your eyes in a cave or in a skin tent on a cold grassland with the sounds of the night pressing in from every direction. You have no concept of a brain generating narratives during sleep. When you see your dead grandmother standing in the river, speaking clearly, she is simply there. When the lion you killed in yesterday's hunt appears tonight transformed into something else, something half human, half animal, you wake with the certainty that you have been shown something. Archaeologist David Lewis Williams, in his landmark research on the origins of cave art, argued that the images painted deep in the caves of Europe and southern Africa were not representations of waking reality. They were maps of altered states, visions, dreams. The artists were not decorating walls. They were recording what they had seen when the boundary between worlds dissolved. The bison painted at Lascaux, the swimming deer, the strange half-human figures. They are 30,000 years old, and they are still broadcasting their original signal to you now if you know how to read it. Someone dreamed these things. Someone woke up and believed enough in what they had seen to go deep into the earth by torchlight and put it on the stone walls. That is how seriously your ancestors took the information that came to them in the dark. Now here is the modern mirror. You wake from a dream, and you have probably already been trained to discount it. Dreams are just random firing. Dreams are meaningless. Dreams are noise. That is the comfortable, modern, scientific consensus, and it is not entirely wrong, but it may not be entirely right either. Barrett's research showed that when people are given a specific problem to think about before sleep and told to notice whether it appears in their dreams, a significant percentage of them dream directly about the problem, and a subset of those dreamers wake up with solutions they could not find while awake. Elias Howe dreamed the design of the sewing machine needle. Dmitri Mendeleev dreamed the periodic table. Paul McCartney dreamed the melody of yesterday. These are not metaphors. These are documented reports from people who took the information their sleeping mind offered them seriously enough to write it down. Your ancestors did not have the luxury of calling it a coincidence and going back to sleep. And in that lack of luxury, they may have had an advantage. Here's what you are left with. Every night, your brain does something ancient and elaborate and strange. It builds worlds. It conjures the dead. It rehearses your fears and your longing and your unresolved grief. It has been doing this since before you were you. Since before your species had language to describe it. Since before the first fire was lit against the first dark. The dreams you are having tonight are not a modern phenomenon. They are not the byproduct of a stressed mind in an overstimulated world, though they can be that too. They are the original channel, the oldest screen. And somewhere in the part of your brain that was shaped by 100,000 years of sleeping under open sky, some part of you still knows that what happens when you close your eyes might be worth listening to. Tonight, when the dream ends and the world comes back, you might, just for a moment, try to remember what you were just told. Your ancestors always did.